The galaxy was on the verge of collapse. For years, humanity had fought bravely alongside its alien allies against an enemy that seemed unstoppable. The Veil, as they were called, had swept across star systems like a storm, leaving nothing but ruin in their wake. Entire planets had been consumed by their dark energy, and civilizations that once thrived were now silent, their people gone without a trace. Eos Prime, a massive moon-sized space station, was humanity's last stronghold. It floated in the cold void of space, its surface covered with towering defense turrets, shimmering shields, and sprawling docking bays filled with ships from dozens of species. Inside, corridors buzzed with activity as soldiers, engineers, and scientists worked around the clock to keep the station operational. But despite their best efforts, the situation was dire. The Veil's relentless attacks had pushed Eos Prime to the brink of destruction. Captain Laura Hayes stood at the center of the command deck, her eyes scanning the holographic displays that showed the status of the battle raging outside. She was a tall woman with sharp features and short blonde hair streaked with gray. Her uniform was wrinkled, and dark circles under her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. Around her, officers shouted updates and warnings, their voices overlapping in a chaotic symphony. The station shook violently as another volley of energy blasts struck its outer defenses. Laura clenched her fists, trying to steady herself as alarms blared. "Damage report," she barked, her voice cutting through the noise. "Shields are down to 20%, replied Lieutenant Ryan Cole, a young man with curly brown hair who manned the sensor station. His fingers danced over the controls as he relayed the information. Outer hull breaches reported on levels 7 and 9. Casualties rising. Laura closed her eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. They couldn't hold out much longer. Every weapon they fired, every tactic they tried, it all seemed useless against the Veil's advanced technology. Their energy shields absorbed every attack, and their drones moved with unnatural speed and precision. Humanity's greatest minds had studied them endlessly, but no one could figure out how to defeat them. "Captain," said Daniel Brooks, her second in command, stepping closer. He was a lean man in his mid-30s with piercing blue eyes and a calm demeanor that often helped ease tensions during crisis. "We need to consider other options. Desperate times call for desperate measures." Laura turned to him, her expression wary. "What do you suggest? We've thrown everything we have at them, and it hasn't made a dent." Daniel hesitated before speaking. "There's Project Echo. You know, the Dimensional Outreach Program." Laura's eyes widened slightly. Project Echo was a highly classified initiative developed by Dr. Emily Shaw, the station's lead scientist. Its goal was simple yet audacious: reach out to alternate dimensions and seek help from someone, anyone, who might possess abilities or knowledge beyond what existed in their reality. It was risky, untested, and widely regarded as a last resort. Many dismissed it as science fiction, but now, with Eos Prime teetering on the edge of annihilation, it was the only option left. "You're serious about this?" Laura asked quietly, glancing around to ensure no one else overheard. "It's our only shot," Daniel replied firmly. "If we don't try something drastic, we'll lose everything." Laura nodded slowly, her mind racing. She knew the risks involved. Reaching out to another dimension could backfire spectacularly, if it even worked at all. But what choice did they have? Taking a step toward the communications panel, she addressed the crew. "Listen up. I want everyone focused on reinforcing the shields and patching those breaches. Brooks and I will be meeting with Dr. Shaw in the lab. Keep me updated on any changes." As Laura and Daniel hurried through the winding corridors of the station, the weight of their decision pressed heavily on both of them. They passed groups of engineers welding bulkheads shut and medics rushing injured personnel to the infirmary. The air smelled faintly of smoke and burnt metal, a grim reminder of how close they were to failure. When they reached the lab, Dr. Shaw was already waiting for them. She was a petite woman in her late 40s with glasses perched on her nose and a clipboard tucked under her arm. Her workspace was cluttered with wires, monitors, and strange devices that hummed softly. In the center of the room stood a large machine resembling a satellite dish, surrounded by blinking lights and glowing panels. "You really want to activate Project Echo?" Dr. Shaw asked, raising an eyebrow. Her tone was skeptical, but not dismissive. "We're out of options," Laura admitted. "Can it be done?" Dr. Shaw sighed, setting her clipboard down. "Technically, yes, but there are no guarantees. If we manage to make contact, we'll be pulling someone completely unaware into our mess, and there's no telling if they'll have what it takes to help us." "We don't have time to debate ethics," Daniel interjected. "Either we try it, or we surrender." After a long pause, Dr. Shaw nodded. "All right, let's get started." For hours, the team worked tirelessly to calibrate the machine and send out a signal. The process was painstaking, requiring precise calculations and adjustments to account for the vast distances between dimensions. Finally, just as hope began to wane, the machine emitted a soft chime, indicating a successful connection. On the monitor, a grainy image appeared. A young man sitting in a dimly lit garage, surrounded by tools and old electronics. He looked confused, staring at the screen in front of him, as if unsure whether what he was seeing was real. "That's him," Dr. Shaw whispered, excitement creeping into her voice. "Alex Carter, age 24, lives in a small town in Ohio. No military training, no combat experience, but there's something unusual about him." Laura leaned forward, studying the image intently. This ordinary-looking man might hold the key to their survival. "Bring him here," she ordered. "Now." And so, with trembling hands and bated breath, the team initiated the transfer sequence, crossing their fingers that this gamble would pay off. Alex Carter stared at the strange symbols flickering on his computer screen, his heart pounding in his chest. He had been tinkering with an old radio when the transmission came through. A jumble of lights, numbers, and coordinates that made no sense. At first, he thought it was some kind of prank or interference from a nearby power line. But then, words started to appear on the screen, written in plain English. "You are needed. Trust us." "What is this?" Alex muttered to himself, leaning closer. His garage was dimly lit, the only illumination coming from a single overhead bulb and the glow of his laptop. Tools lay scattered across a workbench, and shelves lined the walls, filled with spare parts and gadgets he collected over the years. It wasn't exactly the setting for something so bizarre. The message continued. "We are reaching out from another world. Your help is critical. Please follow the instructions below." Below the text was a series of numbers and diagrams, along with a countdown timer ticking down from 10 minutes. Alex laughed nervously, running a hand through his messy brown hair. "This has to be a joke," he said aloud, glancing around as if expecting someone to jump out and yell, "Gotcha!" But there was no one. Just him and the eerie glow of the screen. Still, curiosity got the better of him. He typed back hesitantly, "Who are you? What do you want?" Almost instantly, a reply appeared. "No time to explain. Follow the coordinates. Humanity depends on you." "Humanity," Alex repeated, his voice rising. "What does that even mean?" He shook his head, ready to shut the whole thing down. Whatever this was, it sounded like nonsense. Probably just some elaborate hoax designed to freak people out. But then again, what if it wasn't? Before he could decide, the countdown hit 0. A bright flash of light erupted from the screen, engulfing the room. Alex stumbled backward, shielding his eyes. For a moment, everything went white. Blinding, overwhelming white. And then, just as suddenly, the light faded. When Alex opened his eyes, he wasn't in his garage anymore. Instead, he found himself standing in a vast, metallic chamber. The walls were smooth and silver, glowing faintly with embedded lights. Strange machines hummed softly around him, and panels covered in alien symbols blinked rhythmically. People in uniforms rushed past, barely noticing him, their faces tense and focused. "Where?" Am I? Alex whispered, spinning in place. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what had happened. 1 second, he was in Ohio, and the next, he was here, wherever here was. You're safe, a calm voice said behind him. Alex turned to see a tall woman approaching. She wore a dark blue uniform with a badge on her chest, and her sharp features softened slightly as she studied him. Her name tag read Captain Laura Hayes. Safe, Alex echoed, his voice trembling. I don't even know where I am. Laura held up a hand, gesturing for him to calm down. My name is Captain Hayes. You're aboard Eos Prime, a space station orbiting the edge of human control territory. We brought you here because we need your help. Help with what? Alex asked, his confusion turning into frustration. I'm nobody. I fix broken radios in my spare time. I'm not some kind of hero. Laura exchanged a glance with a man standing nearby, a younger officer with curly brown hair and a clipboard. Your name is Alex Carter, right? She asked. When Alex nodded, she continued, Our scientists detected something unique about you, something we can't fully explain yet. That's why we reached out. Alex's mind reeled. Space station. Scientists? Unique? None of this made any sense. Look, I think there's been a mistake, he stammered. I'm just a regular guy. I don't belong here. You do now, Laura said firmly, though her tone remained gentle. Let me show you something. She led him to a large window overlooking the exterior of the station. Beyond the glass stretched the endless void of space, dotted with stars and distant planets. But what caught Alex's attention was the battle raging outside. Ships fired beams of energy at each other, explosions lighting up the darkness. Swarms of drones moved in perfect synchronization, attacking the station's defenses. What is that? Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. That's the Veil, Laura replied grimly. An enemy we've been fighting for years. They're relentless, and they've pushed us to the brink of defeat. Our weapons can't stop them. Our strategies have failed. And now, well, you're our last hope. Alex turned to her, his face pale. Me? How could I possibly help against that? We believe you have potential, Laura explained. Something inside you that we can harness. With the right tools and training, you might be able to turn the tide. Alex shook his head, backing away. This is insane. You dragged me here based on some theory. I don't even know how I got here. It's called dimensional transfer, said the younger officer, stepping forward. We used advanced technology to pull you from your reality into ours. It's complicated, but trust us, it worked. Alex groaned, rubbing his temples. This was too much, too fast, too unbelievable. Even if I wanted to help, which I'm not saying I do, what makes you think I can? Laura placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Because we've run out of options, and because we wouldn't have gone to such lengths if we didn't think you were capable. For a long moment, Alex stood silently, staring out at the chaos beyond the window. Explosions rocked the station, and the sound of alarms echoed faintly in the distance. He felt small, insignificant, completely out of his depth. But deep down, a spark of determination began to grow. Maybe he wasn't a hero. Maybe he didn't belong here. But if these people truly believed he could make a difference, could he really walk away? All right, Alex said finally, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. Tell me what I need to do. Laura smiled faintly, relief evident in her expression. Thank you, she said. You won't regret this. As they walked back toward the lab, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that his life had changed forever. Whatever lay ahead, it was going to be anything but ordinary. The next few days were a whirlwind for Alex. From the moment he agreed to help, his life became a blur of tests, training sessions, and explanations that barely made sense. Scientists swarmed around him, asking questions, running scans, and poking at devices strapped to his arms and chest. Engineers worked tirelessly to create something they called a prototype suit, which they claimed would amplify whatever abilities Alex supposedly had. At first, Alex felt like a lab rat. He sat in a chair while machines buzzed around him, their lights flickering as they measured his brainwaves, heart rate, and reflexes. Dr. Emily Shaw, the lead scientist, hovered nearby, jotting notes on her clipboard and occasionally muttering things like, "Fascinating," or "This shouldn't be possible." "What exactly are you looking for?" Alex asked one day, growing tired of the constant prodding. "We're trying to understand why you were chosen," Dr. Shaw replied without looking up. She adjusted a dial on one of the machines, causing it to beep loudly. "The signal we sent out wasn't random. It targeted individuals with latent potential, qualities we can't fully explain yet." "You stood out." "Latent potential," Alex repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Like what?" "Super strength. X-ray vision." Dr. Shaw chuckled softly. "Not quite. But there's something about how your mind interacts with electromagnetic fields. It's subtle, but it's there. With the right tools, we think you'll be able to manipulate energy in ways most people can't." Alex frowned, unsure whether to feel excited or skeptical. "So, I'm supposed to zap enemies with lightning bolts or something?" "In a way, yes," Dr. Shaw said, finally looking at him. "But it's more precise than that. Think of it as disrupting their systems, jamming communications, disabling weapons, creating barriers, things that could give us an edge against the Veil." As the scientists continued their work, Alex was introduced to the prototype suit. It was sleek and metallic, designed to fit snugly over his body. Panels along its surface glowed faintly when activated, and wires connected it to a power source in the lab. When Alex first saw it, he couldn't help but laugh. "This looks ridiculous," he said, gesturing to the suit hanging on a rack. "Am I supposed to fight in this thing?" "It's not finished yet," admitted Lieutenant Ryan Cole, the officer who had been monitoring the battle updates earlier. "But once it's calibrated to your biology, it'll enhance your natural abilities. Trust me, it'll work." Alex sighed, knowing he didn't have much choice but to trust them. He stepped into the suit under Dr. Shaw's guidance, wincing as cool metal pressed against his skin. The engineers tightened straps and adjusted settings until the suit felt secure. Then they powered it up. For a moment, nothing happened. Alex glanced down at himself, expecting some kind of dramatic transformation. But then he felt it, a strange tingling sensation spreading through his limbs. His fingers twitched involuntarily, and tiny sparks danced across his palms. "Whoa," Alex said, staring at his hands. "Is this normal?" "It's working," Dr. Shaw said, her eyes wide with excitement. "Try focusing on those sensations. Imagine channeling them outward." Alex closed his eyes, concentrating hard. At first, nothing changed. But then, a faint hum filled the air, and a small orb of light appeared between his hands. It hovered there, pulsing gently before fading away. "I did that?" Alex asked, opening his eyes in disbelief. "You did," Dr. Shaw confirmed, writing furiously on her clipboard. "Incredible. With practice, you'll be able to control it better." Over the next several days, Alex trained nonstop. Laura and Daniel supervised his progress, teaching him basic combat techniques and strategies for using his newfound abilities effectively. They set up simulations in a large training room, where holographic enemies appeared and attacked. At first, Alex struggled. He tripped over his own feet, misfired blasts of energy, and nearly got killed multiple times. "You're thinking too much," Laura told him after one particularly disastrous session. "Stop analyzing every move. Just react." Easier said than done, Alex thought. But slowly, he began to improve. He learned how to aim his energy bursts with greater accuracy, how to create protective shields around himself, and even how to disable simulated drones with a single pulse. Each success boosted his confidence, though he still doubted whether he'd ever be ready for real combat. One evening after hours of training, Alex collapsed onto a bench in the corner of the room. Sweat dripped from his forehead, and his muscles ached from exertion. Laura joined him, handing him a bottle of water. "You're doing well," she said, sitting beside him. "Better than anyone expected." "Thanks," Alex replied, taking a sip. "But I'm still not sure I'm cut out for this. What if I freeze up during the actual fight? What if I let everyone down?" Laura placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You won't. You've already proven you're capable of more than you realize. Besides, you're not alone. We're all counting on each other, not just you." Her words helped ease some of Alex's anxiety, but doubts lingered. The reality of what lay ahead weighed heavily on him. Every time he looked out the station's windows and saw the ongoing battle, he wondered if he'd truly be able to make a difference. Despite his fears, Alex kept pushing forward. He spent long hours practicing, studying tactical maps, and learning about the Veil's weaknesses. Slowly but surely, he began to feel less like an outsider and more like part of the team. The crew treated him with respect, offering encouragement and advice whenever he needed it. By the end of the week, Alex had transformed. Gone was the uncertain man who had arrived in the station's lab, overwhelmed by the strangeness of it all. In his place stood someone stronger, more focused, and ready to face whatever came next. When Laura approached him one morning with news that the Veil was preparing another major assault, Alex didn't hesitate. "Let's do this," he said, his voice steady. For the first time since arriving, he truly believed he might actually stand a chance. Little did he know, the greatest challenges and revelations were still waiting just beyond the horizon. The day of the Veil's assault arrived sooner than anyone expected. Alarms blared throughout Eos Prime, jolting Alex awake from a restless sleep. He had been dreaming about his old garage back in Ohio, tinkering with radios and listening to static-filled broadcasts. It felt like a lifetime ago now. As the station shook violently under another barrage of enemy fire, Alex quickly pulled on his prototype suit, his hands trembling slightly as he adjusted the straps. By the time he reached the command deck, chaos reigned. Officers shouted orders, holographic displays flickered with updates, and soldiers rushed to their stations. Laura stood at the center of it all, her expression calm but intense as she coordinated the defense efforts. When she saw Alex enter, she motioned for him to join her. "We've got incoming," she said bluntly, pointing to a large screen showing swarms of drones approaching the station. "This is it, the moment we've been preparing for." Alex swallowed hard, trying to steady his nerves. "What do you need me to do?" Laura handed him a small earpiece. "You'll be part of Alpha Team. Your job is to disrupt their communications and disable as many drones as possible. Stick close to Daniel. He'll guide you through the battlefield." Before Alex could respond, Daniel appeared beside them, holding a rifle slung over his shoulder. "Ready?" he asked, though his tone suggested there wasn't much choice in the matter. Alex nodded, forcing a weak smile. "As ready as I'll ever be." They made their way to an armored transport ship waiting in the docking bay. Inside, a group of soldiers sat silently, their faces grim as they prepared for what lay ahead. Alex took a seat near the back, clutching the edge of the bench tightly. His mind raced with questions. Would his abilities work outside the training room? Could he really hold his own against the Veil? What if he failed? The transport launched, shaking violently as it exited the station and entered the fray. Through the window, Alex caught his first glimpse of the real battle. Ships exchanged fire in flashes of light, explosions blooming like fireworks across the void. Drones zipped between the chaos, their sleek forms glowing faintly as they homed in on targets. The sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. "Stay sharp," Daniel called out as the transport approached its drop-off point. "Once we're out there, it's all on us." When the hatch opened, Alex followed Daniel onto the surface of a nearby asteroid being used as a staging ground. The ground beneath his feet was rocky and uneven, littered with debris from previous skirmishes. Smoke filled the air, stinging his eyes and making it hard to breathe. For a moment, Alex froze, overwhelmed by the noise and destruction around him. "Focus," Daniel shouted, snapping him out of his daze. "Remember your training." Alex nodded, taking a deep breath. He raised his hands, focusing on the tingling sensation that always preceded his energy bursts. A drone flew toward them, its weapons charging. Without thinking, Alex unleashed a pulse of electromagnetic energy. The drone faltered midair, its lights dimming before it crashed into the ground. "I did it," Alex whispered, shocked by his success. "You're doing great," Daniel encouraged, firing his rifle at another drone. "Keep moving." As they advanced, Alex grew more confident. He targeted one drone after another, disabling them with precise bursts of energy. His shields worked too, deflecting enemy fire when necessary. Soldiers around him cheered, their morale boosted by his unexpected effectiveness. For the first time since arriving at Eos Prime, Alex felt like he belonged. But the battle wasn't without cost. As they pushed deeper into enemy territory, casualties mounted. One soldier fell beside Alex, struck by a stray blast. Another screamed as a drone exploded nearby, sending shrapnel flying. Each loss weighed heavily on Alex, reminding him of the stakes. Eventually, the team reached their objective, a massive relay tower, the Veil used to coordinate its forces. Disabling it would cripple their ability to communicate, giving the defenders a crucial advantage. "This is it," Daniel said, crouching behind cover. "We need to plant explosives on the base of the tower. Can you keep those drones off us while we set the charges?" Alex nodded, stepping forward. He focused on creating a wide barrier of energy, blocking incoming attacks and forcing the drones to retreat. Sweat poured down his face as he maintained the shield, his muscles burning with effort. Behind him, soldiers worked quickly, attaching explosives to the tower's supports. "Almost done," one of them yelled. Suddenly, a larger drone appeared, far bigger than any they'd faced so far. Its weapons glowed ominously as it locked onto Alex. Before he could react, it fired, breaking through his weakening shield and knocking him off his feet. "Alex," Daniel shouted, rushing to his side. "I'm okay," Alex groaned, struggling to stand. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead, but he forced himself to focus. Summoning every ounce of strength, he unleashed a powerful burst of energy directly at the drone. The force tore through its defenses, causing it to explode in a shower of sparks. The tower groaned as the explosives detonated, collapsing in a fiery heap. Cheers erupted from the team as they regrouped, exhausted but victorious. Back aboard Eos Prime, Laura greeted them with relief. "You did it," she said, embracing Alex briefly. "You saved us today." Alex smiled weakly, still catching his breath. "I couldn't have done it without everyone else." Though the immediate threat had been neutralized, Alex knew the war was far from over. Still, as he looked around at the crew, bruised, battered, but alive, he felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they stood a chance after all. Unbeknownst to them, however, the Veil's leader watched the events unfold from afar, intrigued by this new development. An anomaly, it mused silently. Perhaps humanity is more resourceful than anticipated. And so, even as celebrations began aboard Eos Prime, the shadow of the Veil loomed closer than ever, hinting at darker battles yet to come. The victory at the relay tower was short-lived. While the explosion had disrupted the Veil's communications temporarily, it didn't take long for their forces to adapt. Within hours, new waves of drones appeared, more aggressive and coordinated than before. Eos Prime's sensors detected increased activity near the edge of human-controlled space, suggesting that the Veil was preparing for a massive counterattack. Alex sat in the command center, staring at the holographic displays showing enemy movements. His body still ached from the battle earlier, but there was no time to rest. Every officer on the station was scrambling to prepare for what was coming next. Laura paced back and forth, her face tense as she reviewed reports from reconnaissance ships. "We can't keep fighting like this," Daniel said, breaking the silence. He leaned over a table covered with maps and data projections. "Every time we hit them, they come back stronger. We need a way to end this, not just slow them down." Laura nodded grimly. "I know. But how? Their shields are impenetrable, and their numbers are endless." Alex listened quietly, his mind racing. Since arriving at Eos Prime, he'd learned so much about the Veil, but not enough. They were mysterious, almost otherworldly, driven by motives no one could understand. What if the key to defeating them wasn't brute force, but something deeper, something hidden? "I've been thinking," Alex said hesitantly, drawing everyone's attention. "What if we focus on understanding them instead of just attacking blindly? Maybe there's a pattern or weakness we haven't noticed yet." Dr. Emily Shaw, who had joined the discussion, raised an eyebrow. "You mean studying their behavior?" "Exactly," Alex replied. "Back in my garage, I used to fix radios by listening to the static. Sometimes patterns emerge if you pay close attention. What if the Veil has its own static? Something we're missing because we're too focused on fighting." Laura exchanged a glance with Daniel, considering the idea. "It's worth a shot," she said finally. "We don't have many options left." Over the next few days, Alex threw himself into analyzing data collected during battles. With Dr. Shaw's help, he pored over recordings of energy signatures, drone movements, and attack patterns. At first, it seemed like random chaos. The Veil struck without warning, retreating just as suddenly. But as Alex dug deeper, something began to stand out. "They're synchronized," he said one evening, pointing to a series of graphs on a screen. "Every attack follows a specific rhythm, like they're all connected to some kind of central signal." Dr. Shaw leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. "That makes sense. If the Veil operates as a hive mind, disrupting that connection could collapse their entire system." "But where is it coming from?" Laura asked, joining them. "If we can find the source of their coordination, we might be able to shut it down." Alex hesitated, his gaze fixed on the data. "It has to be somewhere deep inside their territory. A core or nexus. They wouldn't risk putting it anywhere vulnerable." Laura straightened, her expression hardening. "Then that's our target." "Alex, can you pinpoint its location?" "I think so," Alex replied, though doubt lingered in his voice. "But getting there won't be easy. We'll need to bypass their defenses and get close enough to plant a device capable of jamming the signal." Daniel frowned. "That sounds like a suicide mission. Even with your abilities, Alex, going in alone is dangerous." "I'll do it," Alex said firmly, surprising even himself. "This whole thing started because you believed in me. Now it's my turn to step up." Laura opened her mouth to argue, but then she saw the determination in Alex's eyes. She sighed, knowing there was no talking him out of it. "All right," she said reluctantly, "but you're not going unprepared. We'll give you everything you need. Weapons, intel, backup plans, and you'll check in every step of the way." Preparations began immediately. Engineers modified Alex's suit, adding extra shielding and equipping it with tools designed to hack into the Veil's systems. Dr. Shaw created a small device called a signal disruptor, which Alex would use to overload the central nexus once he found it. Meanwhile, Laura and Daniel worked on creating a diversion, a large-scale assault meant to draw the Veil's attention away from Alex's infiltration. On the morning of the mission, Alex stood in the docking bay, surrounded by members of the crew. Soldiers wished him luck, while technicians double-checked his gear. Laura approached him last, her expression unreadable. "You don't have to do this," she said softly. "No one will blame you if you stay behind." Alex shook his head. "Yes, I do. This isn't just about saving humanity anymore. It's about proving to myself that I'm not the same guy who sat in a garage fixing broken radios. I came here for a reason, and I'm going to see it through." Laura smiled faintly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Then come back alive. That's an order." With those words, Alex boarded a stealth ship equipped with cloaking technology. As the hatch closed and the engines roared to life, he felt a mix of fear and resolve. For the first time since arriving at Eos Prime, he truly understood the weight of what he was doing and why it mattered. The journey into enemy territory was nerve-wracking. Alex navigated carefully, avoiding patrols and scanning for signs of the central nexus. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the hum of the ship's systems. Finally, he reached a massive structure floating in the void, a pulsating orb of light surrounded by layers of glowing defenses. "This has to be it," Alex whispered, his heart pounding. He landed the ship nearby and stepped outside, activating his suit's camouflage feature to blend into the shadows. As he moved closer, Alex encountered obstacles at every turn. Drones patrolling the area, energy fields blocking his path, traps waiting to spring. But he relied on his training, using his abilities to disable enemies and slip past barriers unnoticed. Each step brought him closer to the core, until finally he stood before the Nexus itself. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen. A swirling mass of energy contained within a crystalline shell. Lights danced across its surface, shifting in patterns that matched the data he'd studied earlier. This was it, the heart of the Veil's operations. Taking a deep breath, Alex pulled out the signal disruptor and began setting it up. His hands trembled slightly, but he forced himself to focus. Just as he finished, however, the ground beneath him shook violently. Alarms blared, and dozens of drones descended, surrounding him. "Well," Alex muttered under his breath, raising his hands defensively. "Here goes nothing." He unleashed a wave of electromagnetic energy, disabling several drones instantly. Others fired back, forcing him to dodge and weave between attacks. Pain shot through his body as stray blasts grazed his suit, but he refused to give up. Summoning every ounce of strength, he activated the disruptor. The Nexus reacted immediately, its lights flickering erratically as the signal began to destabilize. Alex shielded himself as explosions rocked the structure, sending debris flying in all directions. Through the chaos, he caught sight of a figure emerging from the core, a being unlike any he'd encountered before. It was tall and luminous, its form constantly shifting between solid and ethereal states. Its voice echoed in his mind, calm but commanding. "Why do you resist us?" it asked. "We seek harmony." "Harmony," Alex shouted, struggling to stay upright amidst the destruction. "You destroy entire civilizations and call it harmony." The being paused, tilting its head as if considering his words. "Perhaps understanding will come, in time." Before Alex could respond, the Nexus erupted in a blinding flash of light. When the dust settled, the structure was gone, along with the drones, exhausted and battered. Alex collapsed to his knees, unsure whether he'd succeeded or made things worse. Far away, aboard Eos Prime, cheers erupted as the Veil's forces began to retreat. Laura watched the monitors, tears streaming down her face. Against all odds, Alex had done it. But as the galaxy celebrated, questions remained unanswered. What did the Veil truly want? And what sacrifices lay ahead in the pursuit of peace? For now, though, hope burned brighter than ever, a fragile flame in the darkness of space. The aftermath of Alex's mission was chaos, but a different kind of chaos. Instead of the relentless attacks from the Veil, there was an eerie silence. Their forces, once unstoppable, had begun to withdraw. Ships that moments earlier had been locked in combat now drifted away, their glowing forms fading into the void. It was as if someone, or something, had pulled the plug on their entire operation. Back aboard Eos Prime, the crew erupted into cheers. Soldiers hugged each other, scientists exchanged high fives, and even the usually stoic Captain Laura Hayes allowed herself a rare smile. For the first time in years, hope felt tangible. But amidst the celebration, Alex remained quiet. He sat alone in the command center, staring at his hands, still trembling from the effort of the battle. The encounter with the luminous being lingered in his mind, its cryptic words echoing like a riddle he couldn't solve. Harmony. Alex muttered under his breath. What does that even mean? Laura approached him cautiously, her boots clicking softly against the metal floor. She placed a hand on his shoulder, her expression softening when she saw the exhaustion etched into his face. You did it, she said gently. Whatever you did out there, it worked. Alex shook his head, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't think I won. I just stopped them for now. That thing I met, it didn't feel evil. It felt confused, like it didn't understand why we were fighting. Laura frowned, pulling up a chair beside him. Do you think the Veil might have had a reason for what they were doing? Something we don't know about? I don't know, Alex admitted. But I can't shake the feeling that this isn't over. They're not gone. They're just waiting. Before Laura could respond, Dr. Emily Shaw entered the room, clutching a tablet filled with data. Her glasses were slightly askew, and her hair was messier than usual, a sign she'd been working nonstop since Alex returned. We've got readings from the site of the Nexus explosion, she announced. Something strange is happening. What do you mean? Laura asked, standing up. Shaw adjusted her glasses, glancing between Alex and Laura. The energy signature from the Nexus hasn't disappeared completely. It's scattered now, spread across multiple locations. If I didn't know better, I'd say it's trying to rebuild itself. Alex's stomach sank. So they're not defeated. They're regrouping. It looks that way, Shaw confirmed. And if they manage to reestablish their connection, they'll come back stronger than ever. Laura clenched her fists, her jaw tightening. Then we need to act fast. We can't let them recover. But how? Alex asked, frustration creeping into his voice. I barely made it through last time. What are we supposed to do now? Shaw hesitated before speaking. There might be another option. While analyzing the data, I noticed something unusual, a residual signal embedded within the fragments of the Nexus. It's faint, but it seems to contain information about the Veil's origins. If we can decode it, we might finally understand who, or what, they really are. Alex leaned forward, intrigued despite his fatigue. You mean we could figure out why they're attacking us? Exactly, Shaw replied. But decoding the signal won't be easy. It's encrypted in ways we've never seen before. We'll need time and help. Laura nodded thoughtfully. Start assembling a team. Pull in our best cryptographers and engineers. We'll dedicate every available resource to this. As Shaw hurried off to begin preparations, Alex turned to Laura. What about me? What should I do? You rest, Laura said firmly. You've done more than enough. Let the others handle this part while you recover. Alex wanted to argue, but the truth was, he could barely keep his eyes open. His body ached, his mind was foggy, and the weight of everything he'd been through pressed down on him like a lead blanket. Reluctantly, he agreed, allowing Daniel to escort him to a quiet quarters where he could sleep. Over the next few days, the station buzzed with activity. Scientists worked tirelessly to decode the signal, while engineers fortified EOS Prime's defenses in case the Veil returned sooner than expected. Alex spent most of his time recovering, though he couldn't shake the nagging feeling that he should be doing more. He wandered the corridors aimlessly, watching as soldiers trained and technicians repaired damage from the battles. Despite the victory, tension hung thick in the air. Everyone knew the reprieve wouldn't last forever. One evening, Alex found himself in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The vastness of space always reminded him of how small he was, and yet, somehow, he'd become a pivotal player in a galactic conflict. He wasn't sure whether to feel proud or terrified. You look lost, a voice said behind him. It was Ryan Cole, the young officer who had monitored the battle updates during Alex's first days aboard the station. He carried 2 cups of steaming coffee and handed one to Alex. Thanks, Alex said, taking the cup gratefully. I guess I am lost. I keep thinking about that thing I met. The one at the Nexus. It said they wanted harmony. Why would they attack us if that's true? Ryan shrugged, leaning against the railing. Maybe harmony means something different to them than it does to us. Or maybe they think destroying us is the only way to achieve it. That doesn't make sense. Alex replied, shaking his head. If they wanted peace, why not talk to us instead of blowing everything up? Who knows? Ryan said with a sigh. The universe is full of mysteries. Maybe some questions don't have answers. Alex sipped his coffee, letting the warmth spread through him. As much as he hated uncertainty, Ryan's words offered a strange kind of comfort. Maybe understanding the veil wasn't possible. Not fully, anyway. All Alex could do was focus on what he could control, protecting the people around him and doing whatever it took to give humanity a fighting chance. Meanwhile, in the lab, Dr. Shaw and her team made progress decoding the signal. Fragments of images began to emerge, strange landscapes, towering structures, and glimpses of beings that looked both familiar and alien. One image stood out, a massive sphere surrounded by swirling energy, pulsating like a heartbeat. Shaw studied it intently, her brow furrowed in concentration. This has to be their homeworld, she murmured to herself, or at least the source of their power. Her assistant, a young woman named Mia Torres, glanced at the screen nervously. Should we tell Captain Hayes? Not yet, Shaw replied. We need to be sure. If this is their origin point, it could be our greatest weapon, or our biggest mistake. As the pieces slowly came together, Alex received a summons to the command center. When he arrived, Laura greeted him with a mix of excitement and concern. We've got something, she said, gesturing to a holographic display showing the sphere from the decoded signal. Dr. Shaw thinks this could be the key to ending the veil once and for all. But getting there won't be easy. Alex stared at the image, his heart pounding. Another mission loomed on the horizon, one that might decide the fate of the galaxy. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't run from it. If this is what it takes, Alex said quietly, then I'm ready. The journey to the mysterious sphere was fraught with danger from the start. Alex stood aboard a sleek reconnaissance ship, its cockpit filled with blinking lights and humming systems. Beside him sat Captain Laura Hayes and Lieutenant Ryan Cole, both strapped into their seats as the vessel shot through the void of space. The mission was simple in theory, but perilous in execution. Locate the source of the veil's power, gather intel, and, if possible, neutralize it. As they approached the coordinates provided by Dr. Shaw, the ship's sensors began picking up strange readings. Energy fluctuations rippled through the area, distorting the stars and creating an unsettling shimmer in the distance. When the sphere finally came into view, Alex couldn't help but gasp. It was enormous, dwarfing even the largest planets he'd seen. Its surface glowed faintly, pulsating like a living organism, and streams of light spiraled outward, connecting it to smaller structures scattered across the region. This is it, Laura said, her voice tense as she studied the readings. The origin point. It doesn't look natural, Ryan muttered, adjusting the controls. More like artificial, like they built it. Alex nodded silently, his mind racing. If this truly was the heart of the Veil's operations, then destroying it, or at least disabling it, could end the threat once and for all. But something about the sphere felt off, almost alive. Was it merely a machine, or did it house intelligence? And if so, what would happen when they tried to interfere? The ship landed on a nearby asteroid, hidden from sight by jagged rocks and swirling debris. From there, Alex suited up, preparing for the infiltration. His prototype suit had been upgraded again, now equipped with enhanced shielding and tools designed to interface with alien technology. Despite the improvements, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into a trap. Stay sharp, Laura reminded him as they stepped onto the asteroid's surface. We don't know what we're dealing with out here. The team moved cautiously, using portable scanners to map their surroundings. As they drew closer to the sphere, the air grew heavy with static electricity. Sparks danced along Alex's suit, and the tingling sensation in his hands intensified. Whatever powered the sphere, it seemed to react to his presence. When they reached the edge of the structure, they found a massive portal-like entrance surrounded by glowing runes. Alex hesitated, staring at the symbols. They pulsed rhythmically, as if inviting, or warning, them to proceed. "Do we go in?" Ryan asked, gripping his rifle tightly. "We don't have a choice," Laura replied firmly. "If this is where the veil gets its strength, we need to find out how it works." Taking a deep breath, Alex stepped forward, raising his hand toward the portal. A surge of energy coursed through him as the runes flared brightly, and the entrance widened, revealing a dark passageway beyond. Without another word, the team entered, their footsteps echoing softly in the eerie silence. Inside, the environment was unlike anything Alex had ever experienced. The walls were smooth and metallic, glowing faintly with shifting patterns. Strange machines hummed softly, their purposes unknown. Every step felt surreal, as though they were trespassing in a place not meant for humans or any other known species. "This feels wrong," Ryan whispered, glancing around nervously. "Like we're being watched." "You're not imagining things," Alex said quietly. He could sense it too, a presence lurking just out of reach. It wasn't hostile, exactly, but it wasn't friendly either. More curious than anything else. They pressed onward, following the path deeper into the structure. Eventually, they reached a vast chamber dominated by a towering crystal suspended in midair. Beams of light radiated from it, feeding into conduits that branched out in every direction. At the base of the crystal stood a figure, the same luminous being Alex had encountered at the Nexus. "You've returned," the being said, its voice resonating in their minds rather than their ears. "Why do you persist in resisting us?" Alex stepped forward, his heart pounding. "We're not resisting without reason," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "You've destroyed countless lives, wiped out entire civilizations. How is that harmony?" The being tilted its head, as if considering his words. "Harmony requires balance. Your kind spreads chaos, unchecked growth, endless conflict. We seek to restore order." "That's not restoration," Alex shot back. "That's annihilation. You can't force peace by erasing everyone who disagrees with you." For a moment, the being was silent, its form flickering slightly. Then it spoke again, its tone softer. "Perhaps understanding will come, in time." Before Alex could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. The crystal began to glow brighter, and the conduits sparked violently. The team realized too late that their intrusion had triggered some kind of defense mechanism. "We need to shut it down," Laura shouted, pulling out a device designed to disrupt the system. "I'll hold them off," Ryan yelled, taking aim at approaching drones that materialized from thin air. Alex focused on the crystal, channeling all his energy into disrupting its flow. Sparks flew from his fingertips as he unleashed bursts of electromagnetic energy, targeting the connections between the crystal and the conduits. Pain shot through his body, but he pushed through it, gritting his teeth. Finally, with a deafening crack, the crystal shattered, sending shockwaves rippling through the chamber. The being let out a low, mournful sound before vanishing entirely. The drones froze mid-air, then collapsed to the ground, lifeless. "We did it," Laura breathed, lowering her weapon. "It's over." But Alex knew better. As they fled the collapsing structure, he glanced back at the sphere, now dimming rapidly. Though the immediate threat had been neutralized, he couldn't shake the feeling that the veil's essence still lingered somewhere, waiting for its next move. Back aboard EOS Prime, celebrations erupted once again. Soldiers cheered, scientists pored over data, and Laura embraced Alex, thanking him for everything he'd done. But as Alex looked out at the stars, he couldn't help but wonder. Had they truly won, or simply delayed the inevitable. Far away, in the depths of space, fragments of the Veil's consciousness drifted silently, merging and reforming. Somewhere within those remnants, a single thought echoed faintly. Understanding will come, in time.